Hey guys, Jake here. Today's video I'm going to be setting up these two 30 by 30 by 45 Exoterra tanks. They're the Aztec backgrounds. These are going to be set up bioactively for a few dwarf frog species or baby frog species to grow out in as well, depending on what we put in them. This one is more than likely going to be for our eastern dwarf tree frogs we're getting. This will probably be for baby red eyes, and this one will probably be for our baby dainty tree frogs as well. And also down below me, we did recently just acquire some baby Blue Mountains tree frogs, which I'll show you as well in today's video. But let's kick into it. Let's get our drainage layer in and let's start it. I should also mention that today's products that we're going to be using were from Corey. I did pay for them. They weren't sent to me for free. They have been paid for. But they are from Corey from Fish Organics, Fish Organic and Reptile Supplies. He's a wholesaler that deals with a lot of stores. So if your store doesn't deal with them, totally get them onto him, as he does amazing bioactive kits. But without further ado, let's jump into it and get it started. Alrighty, first comes our drainage layer. So these are clay balls. You can see I've already got an example here set up of what they do. Unfortunately, the way these tanks are, they don't quite open the doors completely. But let's get a good drainage layer. This just means when we're watering our plants and stuff, especially because it is a tropical species, they're going to take a lot of water. It means that our plants, or the substrate, the soils and stuff, aren't going to sit there and just get absolutely drenched. And that's not what we want. We don't want it to be drenched up. Let's add the clay balls to this one. Okay, there we go. Drainage layers in. Now the next part is getting some sort of divider, which in this case with Fish Organics bioactive kits, it gives you a fly screen, which you just got to cut to size and fit the tanks. Now, the size that I ordered is actually a 3-foot bioactive kit, so it's suited to fit a complete 3-foot tank in terms of how much drainage layer and so on. But I've broke it down and I'm actually using it for these tanks here. So let's cut the fly screen to size and lay it down. Okay, so now that you have your fly screen cut to size, you can pop it in. Now I've already fitted this tank, so this one's already good to go. But now let's get this one going. So basically you want it to overlay the sides a bit, so that way you don't have any extra soil falling down into it. So you do want to cut it larger than what you're going to expect it to be. So that way, when we put our soil on, we don't end up with any soil getting down into the setup. Allows us to now add our soil without it going into our drainage layer. So the next step is to grab our soil. Okay, so what comes with the 3-foot bioactive setup is 10 litres all up of cocoa fibre, which is what this is. This is a great substrate base for plants, and I think one bag would probably do enough per tank, or might even be enough to do the 2 of them. So let's get some in. You want a good layer. You don't want it to be too stingy, because you want enough for your plants to actually grow. So let's just flatten this out and see how that goes. This is actually a really good soil. As I said, it's really good for plant growth. It looks nice. It's completely frog safe and so on as well. And yeah, that's that. So I'm going to quickly throw the soil into the next tank. And the next stage is essentially putting our plants in, which I actually have to go pick up. I haven't got them yet. So we'll go get some plants in a second as well. But let's get the soil into our other tank. There you go, that's perfect. So now that our soils are in, this looks great. So I'll quickly just run through the other products that the bioactive kits come with, and then we'll go have a look at getting some plants. All right, so Corey's kits, or Fish Organics kits, actually come with I guess you could call it like a live dirt. So what this dirt is it's actually already packed full of isopods. It's also got springtails, earthworms and everything too, to make your actual tank bioactive. So having these little critters in there means that they're going to control any waste and stuff, break down leaf litter and all that debris. So that is really good. And then all you do is just add a little bit of this over the top of the tank, and then that will basically seed the terrarium and make it ready, and then they'll end up reproducing and keeping the tank all nice and clean. It also comes with 200 grams of eucalyptus leaves. Now these are really good to add at the bottom to allow your little insects to actually eat it. And it also gives it a really natural look. It smells a lot like eucalyptus, so it's also going to keep down odors and everything like that. So yeah, this is a really good cover to put over the top of it. So as I said, what we're going to do now is go get some plants and then we can look at setting it up. So let's jump into that. Alrighty guys, so Dylan and I have just leaving the nursery now. I got my plants from Garden Express. It's a local nursery in my area. So they do an online service. If you guys want some terrarium plants, they've got a pretty good range. They're a bit low in stock at the moment, but you can order them online. So what I'll do is when we get home, we'll go through the plants we just got and set them up. So let's get it. Okay guys, so we're back and we've got our plants. I've got quite a large collection. And I'll just show you guys a few of them. So a must in pretty much everyone's terrariums is Pothos, or otherwise known as Devil's Ivy. And then I got a few other big plants, some good ones that when the dainty tree frogs and stuff are babies, the red eyes, they can actually sit on these. This is a zebria or something like that. The feather leaves, I think they're called. These are a fairy plant. This is a Calanthea variety. We also got a Ficus Pumula. This will be good because as this takes off, I can take clippings of this and plant them into other tanks. I've already got a few clippings in a few tanks, but this will be great. This is a large clump, so I'm not too sure whether I'll put the main lot in here or if I'll just take a few snippings of it already. Let's get to it now. I've got a bucket that I can get all the dirt in. I'll actually take them to the sink and try and rinse off as much dirt as possible. That way we're not bringing any fertilizers or anything into the tank as well. But let's start thinking of an idea and get some plants in the tanks. So the first one here is the one we're going to be mainly focusing on in camera, just because we can get it a little bit more in shot than the one back here. Let's start off. So obviously our big plants. So one like this will sort of go at the back here. So let's start with that one. We'll put this one in this tank here. So I'm going to get the soil off, get all the stuff out, and we'll plant this one. Alrighty, so this one didn't actually have any fertilizers in it, and it's pretty much grown in the exact same substrate. So I'm not too fussed about it getting it all 100% off. But there we've got the roots. I think this one would look good in this back right-hand corner here. So we got the plant in, and then I was mentioning that we also got a few mosses which I was able to just collect from the greenhouses up at the place. So one plant's in. We're going to add one of the Pothos in it as well, and we're also going to add this plant as well to the opposite corner. I'm not 100% too sure on the name of that plant, but it's another good leafy plant that will fill in a bit more space, and then there'll be a few more sort of ground plants and so on. So I'm going to get that out of the pot and get that in the terrarium. Alrighty, so this plant was actually able to be separated into two, so I'm going to do a stem of this into each terrarium. In fact, I might even add one down to the Blue Mountains, or even in this tank here, which I might do that. I'm going to add one to this tank and one to this one, so let's include those now. There we go. So we've got the plant in this one and a stem in this one as well. So this one here just allows a little bit more height. Before that, there wasn't much in here height-wise. This leaf is quite tall. It's pretty much to the very top of the tank. What we're going to do now is add the Pothos and another little plant as well, and a bit of moss. And then we'll do the leaf litter and things like that. So let's get that in. Alrighty, so what I'm doing now is just finding the best spot to add the Pothos, which I believe to be right here. I think that looks quite good. Make sure we get all the roots back under soil, because it won't do too well out of soil. Pothos is an absolutely amazing plant in terms of its growth rate and how it just goes. It is just an absolutely awesome plant. So I'm actually going to bend that up and make it go up under there a bit too, which is quite nice. So I got one more plant to add into here, and then I'm going to add a few mosses, and I might add a little bit of creeping figs. So I'm going to add this one to that corner there, and yeah, this is the, there's the name there. I'm not going to try and butcher it, but we're going to add this. So I'll get this out of the pot, get the roots cleaned up, and we're going to add that into that corner there. So let's get on to it. Alrighty, so I just added that extra little plant there. The Pothos is here, that's great. So I'm going to take a few snippings of the creeping fig, or the Ficus Pumula creeping vine, just because I don't want to add the whole lot to this one tank. It's going to be a bit large. So let's take a few snippings. That's a few bits that have already established roots into the soil and get that in here as well. Alrighty, here we have it. A nice little snipping of the Ficus Pumula, which already has a bit of root development. So we're just going to add that to that front portion there. And that should make a pretty good little plant cover to the front of the terrarium here. It also then will hide away the bowl a little bit too, which is good. So we'll make a little divot, add the roots, push all the soil back with our tongs, and then we can adjust this how we want it to grow. I think that's pretty good. Now what we've got to do is open our bag of leaf litter from Fish Organics and add some leaf litter in there, and then give it a mist and add some of our activated or live soil with our springtails and stuff. So let's do it. Brilliant. So here's our leaf litter. This is going to add a lot of hiding spots for our live insects. That way the frogs aren't going to completely just munch them all down before they've had a chance to establish. As I said, I'm adding the live insects. The animals aren't probably going to be here for another week or so. So it gives it plenty of time for them to adapt, will sort of thrive and get a population sort of going before we add some frogs. It's good to have a nice dense coverage. It's also going to stop the frogs from getting completely covered in the substrate as well. So also I forgot our mosses, so let's add a few sprigs of moss here, there and there, and see how the moss goes. This is a little bit of an experiment with the moss. Might do well, it might not do too well. We'll find out as time goes. So there's that. So let's give it a good spray down on the mist setting, not just the direct one. Let's give it a good spray. This gets all the new plants a good bit of water as well. Give it a good mist. We're not going to absolutely drench the heck out of them every single day, but a good mist when we first set it up is definitely good. So let's take you off the tripod and let's take a look into our piece of the rainforest. Here we have it. So as I said, again, it's nothing too special, and it will take a little bit for the plants to acclimatize to the new setting and sort of properly start to develop and grow towards the light, but I think it's pretty good. As I said, this will be for some dainties or red eyes, and this one will be for some of those as well, and eastern dwarf tree frogs. So we'll work out what's going to be best for what and see how it goes. So there's that. Now let's get into terrarium number 2. You know what we forgot? Our live substrate. So if we were to have a flick through here, you'll find there's also bits of charcoal, which is good too, but I can already see there's quite a few springtails. Alrighty, so unfortunately it cut out again whilst we were filming that, but we just added our substrate, which has all of our springtails, slater bugs, all of that in there as well. There's a couple of springtails there. So we've just added all that. So what we're going to do now is with this one, I'm actually going to pre-mix it into the soil. So that way we don't have to mess around with it and get it on our plants and stuff while we do that. So let's jump into that. So unfortunately my camera just stops filming occasionally. I keep forgetting that this one I can hardly open the door, which is a little bit of a pain. It's almost like I have to just work through the one door, which is certainly frustrating. But you got to do what you got to do. So we'll tip all of that in. Yeah, there's heaps of springtails and little isopods in there, which is great. So let's pre-mix that into the soil. That way all those leaf litters as well are going to be under the gravel, under the soil. And that is going to make that full pack of nutrients for the plants as well in the next lot. Now I'm not going to film the process of this one, just because we've already done it with this one. So I'm going to put in the plants and then we're going to pick up the camera and have a look at it once it's done. So see you in a second. Alrighty, so this plant here, I could certainly see some traces of fertilizers on. So I went through quite thoroughly and actually washed this one off and got majority of the roots clean, to where I can't really see anything on there. So I got pretty much everything that I could see off the plant which is what you want to do because, again, you don't necessarily want fertilizers in the tank. So this one we're going to put in this side corner here. On the other side, we're going to add a fern. And then in the middle, we're going to add this other plant as well. So let's get this one in. And then, again, I'll pick you up once it's finished. All right, guys. Here we have it. They're done. So let's flip the camera around and take a closer look. So this one here, this is probably going to be for the red eyes. So they're going to enjoy this here, or if not the dainties, but one or the other. So these are fully bioactive. They've got the drainage layer, and they've got live animals in here as well, live springtails and so on. So what we're going to do now is just allow all the plants to grow in and grow towards the light and fill in. Once they've adapted to the tank life, they'll actually look a lot nicer. But that's that one there. So again, more than likely, I think this one will be for the juvenile red eyes. These are not permanent tanks for the red eyes. These are just grow out tanks because they're going to come in as little morphlings. This one, I believed I was setting up and had the idea of the dwarf tree frogs in this one, just because I think it looked a little bit like the sub-foresty areas of Queensland where they're usually from, or New South Wales and so on. And this one here, this will probably be for the dainties. This plant kind of reminds me of a banana palm, which dainty tree frogs end up coming down into Victoria a lot on the palms. So that's that. So again, once the plants all start to grow in, the creeping fig starts to cover the ground and stuff, will look great. Or the Ficus Pumula, sorry. So I'm pretty happy with the bay of tanks. There we have it. That is the bays, the new 30 by 30 by 45 Exoterra tanks. So pretty excited about these. Can't wait for the frogs to come. Can't wait to see how the plants develop. So pretty cool. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know the camera angles weren't amazing in this video, so it was a little bit hard to see what I was actually doing. But I think the tanks have turned out pretty well. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. So that hopefully the plants acclimatise and adapt really well as well. And yeah, I'm pretty stoked. So I can't wait to get the frogs and have them in there. It's good to have the tanks going a little bit before the species come in. It's good to have tanks ready and not just buy species without being set up for them. But this allows the plants to actually grow in before the frogs trample on them. So while they're little froglets, they'll be perfectly fine. Once they get a little bit larger, especially the red eyes, they can sort of break the plants a bit too. So hopefully allowing them to establish allows them to get a little bit more sturdy before that happens.